Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly video for you on this little guy. This is the Ruike Rake, whatever, P-105. There you go. At least they put it on there. So anyways, we're going to take this little guy apart, see how it's done. Right now, ahead of time, it is slightly favoring, very, very slightly. Actually, that's just the grind. Is slightly favoring the clip side, which is fine, the lock side that is. And the action is very nice. Little tiny bit of play. So, anyways, we'll see if we can get it back that direction. Looks like we're taking this apart from this side, which is fine. Looks like there are only 3 screws here. Pivot screw, this guy, this guy. These 2 clip screws terminate inside the liner here, so no problem. And let's go ahead and pop this guy open. I am sensing that this is going to be T8 for the pivot, so let's just try that. There we go. A little bit of some kind of Threadlocker on there, but it broke pretty quick. Hint of red. Uh-oh. Somebody made a deal with the red devil. That just means we're going to be very careful with these T6 screws down here, because T6 and red Loctite, not a wonderful thing. Okay. You know, hold on. I'm going to finally do this on camera. Why not, right? So one solution, in fact, probably the best solution for actually dealing with Loctite issues is heat. And so what I've just done is I have fetched my crappy soldering iron. This is a terrible soldering iron. Electronics geeks, please, 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 please do not judge me for owning this soldering iron. I don't solder all that much, and where I do, I have one at work that works, you know, worth a damn. But this guy is a terrible soldering iron, but it is absolutely fine for applying heat to a screw. And so what I'm going to do is use this soldering iron to apply a little bit of heat to this screw. I'm going to let it, you know, heat up a little bit here. Naturally, I'm going to have British people saying, but Nick, it's soldering, or whatever it is that they have. Not in my neck of the woods, I'm sorry. It is soldering. No major pain there. But anyways, the strategy that you want to use whenever you're doing this, ideally I would let this heat up a little bit more, but you know what, honestly, I'm in the process here, and I might as well. But the process I'm going to use here to get this loose, because Threadlocker lets go at a certain temperature. It is very much, there's kind of like a linear, you know, up, hotter, then bam, it's gone. And so what I'm going to try and do here, without burning myself, is the dream, and this is a heat-resistant mat, so I'm pretty okay with it. Yeah, hey, looks like it works. But I'm actually going to use some sort of object as a soldering iron stand. Let's see here. This is a chunk of titanium. That'll do. That is a Kaiser Quarto. But anyways, my hope here, nope, didn't get it, but it also cooled down a little bit, is that I can basically hold the soldering iron onto the screw long enough that enough of the heat gets transferred into the screw to raise the temperature above that critical little area here. And this is one of those times where I would love, love, love to be an octopus. You know, not because of the intelligence. Maybe they are, hashtag a brilliant octopus. But more because of the hands. I could use a couple of more hands doing this. One to hold the iron, one to hold the driver, to swap back and forth more readily. Okay, there we go. So whatever amount of heat I put into that was actually enough to break this loose, which is good. And we can see a little bit of the red death down there on the bottom. So I'll put that there and try not to burn myself. You guys are, by the way, more than welcome to laugh when I burn myself. Because let's be real here, it's going to happen. But, yeah, so again, I'm going to do the same thing where I apply a fair amount of heat onto this screw here. And you want to be careful, especially on a higher-end piece. I mean, I'm not, like, super freaking out with a $25 Ruike here. But you want to be a little bit careful with doing this, that you're not, you know, like trying to melt everything through. There you go. Right there, enough heat got into that it popped the screw through, and we are done. Hey, cool. I almost made that look good. Spyderco actually has advised when they were using red Loctite, which sounds a lot like when they were using crack, in terms of stigmatism, not stigmatism, because that's an eye thing. No, they're stigmatism. Whatever the heck. Either way, they also advocated that you can use, like, impact, that you can, get a hammer and pop on the end of your driver, and that'll pop it out of there. But that's not necessary. Okay, now I have a hot soldering iron. Let me set this down someplace heat resistant, but where I will not burn myself. Alrighty. There we go. Alright, soldering iron handled, mischief managed. And we can put you back over there. You served me well, Cordo, thank you. Now, we pop this loose. Come on now. There we go. But anyways, the impact thing is fine, but God, I feel awful using it. Holy crap, that's a lot of grease. This has never been taken apart. Oh, I do want to thank my buddy, I believe this one's actually from Cedric A to Gear and Outdoors, that sent this guy along. That's Pete, by the way. Because I wouldn't have gotten a chance otherwise, and, yeah. It's always interesting to see the same knife reviewed in two places. Because different people can have different opinions and different, oftentimes you wonder, well, okay, how, was this one a better knife than the other one, etc.? A better Ruike 105. Look, I know that it's supposed to be pronounced rake. Like, I'm aware of this fact. They have made it clear on their website. In fact, they have, like, on their website, something like, can this break the glass? And they have, like, B and then a Ryuki after it. I get it. It's just no. I'm sorry. Just no. And I generally try and be better than this. I try to respect people's choice of name, etc. I don't really honestly care what I call you, but as a reviewer, it puts me in a really awkward position. Because if I, like, go on a freaking, like a podcast or something like that where I can't write it out, I can't, highlight this on the name, and I just say rake, people are going to be searching R-A-K-E. And if I say R-U-I-K-E, they're going to think Reich, which is a different brand altogether. The name is just bad. I'm sorry, guys. And so I end up saying, like, Rake Ryuki, so that people look at this and think, oh, it's that one. Hear that is, and think, oh, it's that one. And that makes things maybe a little better. Maybe a little. Okay. I've got that out. Now let me clean out the detent ball, or not the detent ball, anything. Clean out the bearing race there. Clean this out. And this hole here is the, I have no freaking clue what that hole there is. Thought it was the detent hole for a second, but it was weirdly positioned, and this is the detent hole. This is just a hole. Probably a positioning hole for machining or something like that. We'll see. I've tried, as a jackass of some weird stature, in the knife community, I suppose, I've tried very hard to kind of understand a little bit more about machining, because that's kind of the art at play here. And, that is almost entirely, third party. Watching things like YouTube videos, great channels like A-Bomb, I think 79, A-B-O-M, Adam Booth Machining. Great guy and a nice teacher, and that's important. Or Ox Tool Co., the Grimsmo Knives. I try my best to learn as much as I can about the world that I'm critiquing here, just so I can understand things a little bit better, like, why on earth would you want to do that? And, like, I've said some stupid things in my early reviews. Like, at one point in time, in a really early review, I think it was the Kaiser Beglighter. And this is one of those, like, if I could go back in time and dope slap Nick Shabazz, that'd be one of the times. I said, oh, they probably drilled holes in the handle to save money on materials. Yeah, that's not the smartest thing I've said in my lifetime, thank God. And it's getting pretty close to the dumbest because, of course, well, yeah, you can recycle these little chunks of steel there, but that would make only sense if you were like a foundry or something like that and you could put it back in. Instead, you're taking time to machine things out. What they were actually doing is removing a little bit of material from the liners to make the knife lighter weight. And so I interpreted that as cost cutting as something because, again, I am not a brilliant man, and I was even less brilliant then than I am now, to whatever extent I am now. And so, I've tried my best to learn some of these things. And the positioning holes are something I came to appreciate from the Grimsmos and otherwise. And, the classic Shabazz positioning hole, but, still, I don't know these things. I think if I could take 3 weeks or something like that and intern at a freaking knife company, on the floor or something, God, that'd be fun. Learn a lot. But unfortunately, life doesn't go that way. So, okay, back at the ranch. I'm putting a knife back together here. A couple of things to keep in mind. Which way does the pivot go in? I was asking myself. Well, that one's actually easy to answer because the pivot has this D shape on it, but it's only on one part of it. And so the part that is D-shaped needs to go in the hole that is D-shaped. And so the pivot needs to go in this direction here, from the top, so to speak, from the show side scale. So there you go. Next thing, actually, before I do that, I'm going to use a little bit of nano oil here. I'm going to use the 10 weight, because I think that's a nice weight for bearings, and I'm using it in this pen applicator, so I don't apply quite as much. Drop a bearing on here. Get my bearings. Yeah, it was terrible. Anyways, there we go. Put that on there. Then I'm going to put a little bit of this onto the pivot itself, such that the knife can rotate a little more smoothly on said pivot as I'm doing things. Yeah, there we go. Now it's time to drop a blade in here. Let's put a blade in here. Time to put in, okay, 2 pins fell out of this. One of them is the stop pin. The stop pin goes here. It's probably the thicker of the two. This one, I bet, goes into this hole here. Yeah, okay, that's just a reinforcement pin. Size fits. There we go. Case closed. Some of you may be asking yourself, but Nick, even though you're not a brilliant man, why are you not gonna, are you worried about putting, these screws back in? Are you gonna need the soldering iron again? The answer actually turns out to be no, because usually when you break red Loctite, it's broken, so to speak. There may be weird forms of dark magic that allow red Loctite to come back from the dead. I've never discovered them. May I never discover them. But, you don't really need to worry about that. Usually, once you break a Threadlocker, it's kind of broken, which is, good and bad. It means that you don't have to worry about it in the future, but it also does mean that you need to reapply it if you want your threads to remain locked. But I'm not going to apply the red stuff because I'm not in cahoots with the Red Devil. I am instead just going to apply an intermediate strength blue Loctite and clean off these screws a little bit just to make sure. And of course, they're using 2 different sizes. Okay, yeah, that's T6. Sometimes I grab T5, and it's just a weird world. T7 and T6 and T5 are all, well, too damn small. But, yeah. There we go. And just clean this off as well. So what we can do here is set everything back together. Am I missing any parts? No. Okay, great. Oh, I'm going to put a little bit of lubrication on this top part as well. And I should lubricate the detent ball path. There you go. This is just giving me a little bit of extra lube on that so that the knife flies open a little more readily. I kind of think that the action on this is going to be great because I removed some ugly greasiness from this guy. So, yeah. And then I'm going to try... And did I install this pivot upside down? It's looking like I might have. Yeah, I sure did, because the flat side needs to be on the other side. Okay, let's rotate you, not the blade. Well, hell, let's rotate the blade, why not? Okay, now the pivot slides into position. We're good. What we will go ahead and do here is put in those back screws. I'm going to use a blue Threadlocker. This is a thread locking stick, and I'm going to apply a little bit. There you go. Drop it in. Not going to tighten it down too much because you can see everything's slightly out of alignment here. It's a pain in the neck, but I'm going to switch drivers and then pop the pivot in because right now everything's kind of popped open under weird tension. That's because I've got the blade shut. You can do it this way. I usually don't, but, there are some advantages. One of the big Oh, damn it. There we go. One of the big advantages is that you don't have to worry about disengaging the lock bar for, the remove tension, because the lock bar is disengaged by definition. But you are also having to apply enough force downwards to, push the lock bar. You're fighting against the lock bar the whole time you do it. You can go either way, but that's the reason I generally don't do it that way. But this time I did, because I'm bucking tradition and whatnot. I have no idea what I'm doing. Alrighty. There we go. That's weird. That skipped a beat for a second there. Maybe it just hit like a little something in the screw. Okay, just did this. That's really weird. I'm thinking that it's bottomed out against this side. Oh no, it's just that there's a little bit of back and forth rotation available within this. Okay. Well, whatever. It looks okay. Just looking against the light source up above to check to see if there are gaps in there. Let's pop this open. Whoa. Nice. Oh, yeah. That's got a stupid good action. That's really nice. Now that it's cleaned out, holy crap, this is nice. Action-wise, holy crap. All right. That's neat. Is it hitting the inside there? I don't know. Either way, hope this has been interesting. It is not hitting the inside there. I just looked backspace. Hope this has been interesting to you. Went a little bit more kind of off the rails than I expected it to with the Threadlocker, but we recovered. Hope this has been interesting. Have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.